Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today we have a guest who happens to be Polish. Her name is Kasia Dodd. And I'm going to read her bio really quick. And she knows if I forget anything, she will add to it because she has a longer bio than what I'm introducing her with. But Kasia has a master's in clinical psychology and theology with a specialization in spirituality. She earned her emotional freedom technique certification under the method's creator, Gary Gregg, in the United States. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the tapping method where you're tapping your acupuncture points. She also introduced EFT to Poland, initiating the development in her country. Kasia is also the author of the book, You Are the Dream of the Universe, and I love that title, which helps readers discover the mechanisms governing their inner world and find balance between the inner child and the inner parent. Okay, I know your bio is a lot longer, Kasia, but thank you first for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And is there anything in your background that you want to share with the audience before I ask any questions?
I think that's sufficient for now.
Okay. So my first question for you is, why study psychology and spirituality? Like, why that combo?
From the perspective of time, I think I just came here to work with people. I remember when I was still a little girl, I was maybe 6 or 7, and I was fascinated with going to doctor and seeing the doctor, how doctors work and nurses and how they help people. I was just fascinated. And then I went to a hospital. I was sick when I was 8, and I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. And again, I was fascinated by being in the hospital and watching everything that was going on. And I remember when I was leaving the hospital with my mom, and we were walking through the parking lot, and I stopped and I turned, looked at the big building, and I said, Mom, I will come back here one day and I will help all those children here. So I was only 8. So I really wanted to do it since I was a little girl. And then my first idea was to become a doctor because that's all I knew when I was a little kid. So I thought I would go to a medical school and I will be a doctor and I want to be a surgeon and I really want to do a serious stuff. But then one time when I ended up going to a school of physical therapy. And one time we had practice and there was a neurology. Yeah, it was neurology division in this hospital. And I saw this young man. He was 24 and he was completely paralyzed after construction accident. He was full body cast, and he was so hopeful that he will be okay. And everybody knew that he will never be okay walking again and being normal and having normal life, that he will be always paralyzed. And I felt so bad at that moment because we were doing exercises with him, like physical therapy, moving his hands and helping him with movements, but nobody was taking care of his mental and emotional state. And I was like, my gosh, this piece is missing here. I really want to know what to do with this guy right now, not only moving his hands or legs. And then I decided to go to a psychology school. So I went to a psychology school, I got my master's degree, and then I thought, man, I know so much about emotions and mental state, but nobody talks about the spirit. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to a theology school. So theology school was really, really opening on deeper levels. And so I got 3 degrees, and then I decided to be a therapist and work with people with emotional trauma and emotional problems. And in time, during different, I was doing different courses besides school, beyond school, different courses, alternative methods, and eventually I ended up with being an author, inventor of my own method working with deeper self, and I called it Inherence. And I worked 7 years with my friend who is also a therapist. We both collaborated and we came up with this method, and we just doing it with people. And EFT, the emotional freedom techniques.
Yeah, how do the two of them work together? I'm not familiar with inheritance, so
Yeah,
yeah.
Inherence. Yeah, this is something really not known yet. We just started doing workshops for Polish people for now. Now it's fourth workshop we're doing, so it's not promoted yet enough. But yes, you can do EFT with any other modality. The EFT tapping, you can combine it with any method on the planet you want, and it will work. So it works with our Inherence well too.
I just noticed something different when you did it versus when I do it. Your gesture, for people listening, you can't see when we're using our hands, but what's different is I am going to each area and tapping, where Cass Cassia is just one fluid motion around her face. It's very interesting how you did that. Is that how the original person taught you? I forgot his name already.
Gary Craig, he's the
Yeah, is that
inventor
how
of
he does
EFT.
it, or is that your special way of doing it?
And no, there's certain points, the exact points that you are talking about, and that's how Gary Craig taught everybody to do it. I guess I just don't pay attention. My hand is just following this way, like
Well, no,
the round
it's
motion.
beautiful. It's very fluid, where
Mm,
mine is more, I don't use EFT every day in my practice.
mhm.
I do know how to do it, and I use it sporadically on myself or with clients. It's not my first go-to. And I'm a little more awkward doing it. You're just so smooth. Just like, oh yeah.
I've been doing it with people for 20 years. Maybe my hand is just doing it
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I love that. Okay, so I do love the blend of psychology and theology too. That's something I'm very interested is this. I do some Christian counseling as well, but I work with people of all faith backgrounds, and I'm guessing you do as well. But
Yes.
explain, if you had a trauma survivor reach out to you, let's say it's a woman who is leaving a domestic violence situation. Explain a little bit more about the work that maybe you would do with that person and giving her relief. Like, she's emotionally dysregulated, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and just not sure what her future will look like. She feels a little stuck. What would you do with her?
Hmm. First of all, what I would do, I would address all the emotions that are running through the body back and forth. Because when we are in trauma and we have a lot of emotions going on inside, it's almost impossible to focus on anything outside of it. We are in survival mode, and everything that is connected to fear it will take the first place. So in order to think about future, we have to address the emotions first. And emotional freedom techniques, the EFT, the tapping, I found the best method on planet to deal with those emotions really gently and pretty effectively, and it doesn't take a lot of time. There are certain techniques within the emotional freedom techniques method that deal specifically with severe trauma. So we don't re-traumatize the person while doing the exercises. So there's not much talking or no talking at all when you address the emotions, and you just do the specific tapping, and you can feel that the huge emotions, the tension in the body, the panic attacks, it just diminishes, disappears sometimes in minutes. And it's not an exaggeration, it really happens. It's better if a person who went through severe trauma works with somebody doing the knowing the EFT and knowing how to deal with trauma and what's in the aftermath of trauma. So it's not just I will tap the points and everything will be fine. it's better if somebody leads the process doing the EFT, then it's a lot safer environment for releasing the trauma. And there's a technique called movie technique and other technique, tearless trauma technique. Those are both EFT method, EFT kind of sub techniques, and they deal beautifully with trauma. You don't have to re-traumatize yourself. And even if, your emotion like anxiety or immense fear is sometimes 10 on the scale 0 to 10, after sometimes one round of EFT, those rounds are really short, like 3-4 minutes, not longer in the movie technique. And it can go down from 10 to 5 in only 3 minutes. Then you do another round, it can go from 5 to 3 to 2 to 1, and sometimes a few minutes, 15 minutes, and you go from panic attack to calm inside. And those effects are mostly permanent. Sometimes when somebody starts doing the exercise, the EFT exercise, and another aspect of the trauma comes, and you feel another emotion, then you just follow the other emotion. You do another technique, another exercise, EFT exercise for the other emotion, and the emotion goes down. And you just follow whatever the body shows you, you follow until you feel really calm. And so when somebody comes to me with serious trauma, the first thing I do is EFT, because when there's a lot of emotion, there's no room in the body, in the brain, to think about anything else except the survival. It has to be first addressed before you can open to future and dream and new plans and new possibilities.
So would you say that you use the EFT to help ground them? Did you use that
Yes,
language? Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yes.
So if I was someone not familiar with EFT and I was listening, I think one of the questions I would have is, how does this work? It sounds crazy. And I think about when I'm using it, like what is really helping me when I'm using it? And one of the things that resonates with me is the rhythm. The
Mm-hmm.
rhythm is very soothing. And I'm guessing that might be similar to the frequency of drumming, that drumming can be emotionally regulating. Can you speak to that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how exactly does EFT work? Maybe take
Yes.
some of the woo-woo, maybe some science behind
Yes, there is no woo-woo anymore, because there's like hundreds of clinical studies, and not only
it. Yes.
psychological studies, but also medical studies showing what's going on inside of our body with the physiology, with the hormonal stress hormones, and there are scans of the brain showing significant change after just a few rounds of EFTs. So there's no more woo-woo anymore. But how I explain it to people why this weird thing works so well, I refer to, I think it was Paul MacLean, the theory of triune brain. It means, what it means is that our brain functionally has three parts. The part at the base of the brain is the primitive brain that's responsible for our physiology, for hunger, for breathing and procreation, those typical biology. Then there's a middle brain, which is the limbic system, that's responsible for our emotional responses. And there's the prefrontal cortex that are the higher functions, like we can think, we can plan, there's personality here, there's the humanity here, self-reflection. So that, and then when we go through trauma and the system is in shock, and the shock is so big that the body cannot process those emotions, then it's being written in the brain, all three levels at the same time, in the primitive brain, the emotional brain, and the logical brain. The key word at the same time. Now, when we want to release the trauma, we have to feel it again at the same time, the emotion at all three levels. So now when we do only talk therapy, for example, we stimulate the logical brain because we talk, we think, we remember, we have memories, and emotions are stirred by that. But then usually it ends there. Now, when we do EFT, there is this tapping component of the method. So when you tap, you actually address I call it animal in us, the animal, the primitive, instinctual part of us that is responsible for survival. So we are stimulating that part. So the animal part of us understands what we want because we literally stimulate by tapping, we stimulate the primitive part of the brain. Then when we speak the sentences out loud, we stimulate the logical part of the brain. And usually the emotion is right there when we talk about trauma. So at the same time, the three parts of the brain are present. And then the release happens because the three parts of brain communicate, they resynchronize themselves. So whatever got stuck there, it just releases beautifully. So that's how I explain it to people because to me it makes sense. And actually that's what happens.
This is the first time I've heard it explained like this. And I've read a lot of tapping books about EFT and also videos. You're a really good teacher.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did that very succinctly. And anything about the nerve endings, like I heard there's a lot of
Yes.
nerve endings in our fingers. And when we tap, we use our fingers. Anything about that, would you say?
Yes, I think so. And I think we do it instinctively sometimes. For example, when people are anxious, nervous, and they sit and wait for something, we just do this thing by the table, right? Banging our fingers against the table. So we just try to soothe ourselves by stimulating the endpoints on fingers. So we do those things a lot, not realizing it's just written in our physiology. In EFT, we use those things more consciously, more like in more in control environment, if I can say that. So the meridians, yes, the EFT is called also psychological acupuncture or psychological acupressure because it uses the meridian system to stimulate the stuck energy in the body.
I'm sorry, the sun's coming right in on me now. Okay, but all right. Um, do you write about, I have not had a chance to read your book yet. Do you talk about EFT in your book as well, or is
No,
it just separate
no.
stuff?
Yeah, it's a separate stuff. I don't write about EFT, although there is 25 EFT exercises that go with the book. So if somebody knows EFT, they can tap along while reading the book, but it's not required to read the book, get the benefits from reading. It's just for somebody who would like to take the reading on a little bit deeper level and feel more, to release some emotions that may be stirred when you read the book. So, yeah.
What inspired you to read your book?
Oh, yeah.
Did I say read? I meant to say
You
write.
meant right. I got that.
I know what's inspiring me to read it is it has the word dream in it, and
Mm,
my company has the word dream in it as well. Heal, thrive, dream.
mm.
So I just feel like
Yep.
we don't spend enough time doing it or not believing it's possible. But tell me what inspired you to write your book. Sorry.
I think two things. First, my clients, because I've been working with clients doing individual sessions for almost 20 years, like 18 years, I think now. And many times during the session, when I was explaining something to a person, they used to say, "Could you repeat this? It was really good. I want to write it. So you should write a book about it. You should write it in the book." And so many people said that. I said, "Okay, maybe I should write a book." But also, my favorite thing is to explore the deeper levels of consciousness, meditating, in a way, meditating. So I had a lot of reflections coming from those inner explorations. And then at some point, it all blended into a book, into a kind of coherent theory of the inner child and inner parent. And that's how the book, yeah, was written.
Very good. And I'm guessing your skills as a clinician and someone who's studied theology, but also your own experiences, like being that little girl that was in the hospital and having compassion for all the other kids that were there and other people that were there. I'm guessing all of that inspired. Do you feel like your book is healing for people? What is the goal of the book?
The goal of the book is that to help people to understand themselves on a deeper level. And the book was published in Poland a few years ago, so I already have some feedback from people. And the feedback surprises even me because I just wrote the book, but then how it affects people, that's something that I was not thinking writing the book. I just thought, okay, it will be helpful for people, I'm sure, because it comes from therapy, from work, from experiences, and people like when I talk about it, so I'm sure it will be helpful. But people are writing me sometimes really surprising emails, like how deeply it touched them, how it changed their worldview, how they see themselves differently, how relieved they feel because they thought they were going crazy and the world was bad, and it's just not that. It widens their perspective on how things work. So I'm getting really good feedback. Sometimes it almost makes me shy. Oh my gosh, is this really
You're humble.
happening? Yeah, sometimes.
It's nice to be humble, but that must feel very impactful. Like it must be a really good feeling, like you created something and now it's the beautiful thing about books or doing things online is you can have a larger reach more people and have a larger impact than
Yes,
just your one-on-one client.
yes.
So that's beautiful. And so you mentioned you have workshops. How else do you work with clients? I'm guessing you do one-on-one and workshops. What else do you offer?
Yes,
Courses?
so far, individual sessions, that was the main thing that I been doing. I started doing workshops and I do EFT workshops and we started with my kind of business partner or therapy partner, my friend. We do the Inherence workshops, but we just started, so it's not promoted well yet.
Yeah,
Yes, and sometimes I do in-person workshops or live workshops or not online workshops. I'm not sure how you say it. Yeah. So yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
And if somebody wanted to read more about your offerings, do you have a website or anything that they can check you out on?
Yes, I do have website. It's called katarzynadodd.com. That's my full name, and that's my English website because I also have Polish websites, two websites. In case if somebody is from Poland or speaks Polish or lives in Poland. And I don't have yet the Inherence workshops in English. I think it will be ready this year because we are working on application, really cool application that within the application there will be Inherence course and EFT tapping for people and some programs for specific problems. Like right now I'm writing a program for people who, especially for women, but not only, who escaped a relationship with a narcissist. And there's a whole spectrum of symptoms and emotions and difficult time on the emotional level, even after people leave those really deeply toxic relationships. So sometimes it takes time, sometimes a few years before people get back in touch with their own self. So there will be the first program in the application, but it won't happen probably sooner than this summer. So I don't have it right now yet.
That's okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
a podcast is a living, breathing thing. So anytime in the future that you have something published you want us to add to the notes, we're happy to do that.
Oh, thank you.
Plus, our publication schedule is way out as well. Okay. For anyone listening that is really struggling right now, do you have any words of encouragement or wisdom or anything your intuition says you should offer that person right now that's maybe struggling?
Yes, if somebody is really struggling with the emotional state, I would really encourage to check out the EFT, the emotional freedom techniques. There are many resources online that are completely free. You don't have to pay for any courses or any sessions. In English, there are few EFT practitioners that have a lot of free EFT exercises online. You can just go on YouTube, turn on the one of the exercises. It usually is not longer than 10 minutes. Try the tapping and see how it calms the emotional state inside. And the encouragement is that it really works. I know that if somebody went through a very severe trauma, the trust is not big and people may be distrustful and skeptical because the emotions are so strong inside. But I will encourage anyway to try the EFT. It's not invasive. You don't have to pay for anything. It's just balancing your body and your emotional system back to normal. I think it will be the easiest and quickest way to feel relief. So there is a way to get relief, even if it was a severe trauma, even if it happened long time ago. It doesn't matter when it happened. It could happen 10 years ago or yesterday. The EFT still works the same way. And the worst thing that people can do is just stay and do nothing. That's the worst. But it's so available and accessible and easy to just break the cycle of the emotional roller coaster.
Exactly. Thank you for that. And thank you for being a guest with us today. We really appreciated having you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I can talk to the end of world about EFT and how it can help. And there is a hope and there are ways. People don't have to sit in those difficult states anymore.
Beautiful. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.